I myself also consume a lot of media that is violent in nature, so when I examine this issue, I do also examine myself. People consume sexual content, for example, because they are sexual beings. I think few people would argue that porn is popular for reasons outside of human sexuality. It seems to me similarly intuitive that the success of violent media is related to something violent in human nature. Obviously, I don't reject the idea that people may engage with violent media for things other than the enjoyment of the violence itself. Surely indeed, most violent films are not pure gore, but also include many other elements that may be appealing, such as romance and fabulous clothing. But given that humans, we all know human history, have a proclivity towards violence, it is an extremely intuitive idea that the success of violent media lies for a large part in the violence itself. Obviously, you can go for a metaphorical reading of fictitious violence, you could say you do not enjoy seeing people suffer from violence per se, but rather you enjoy seeing the violence upon the idea that the villains represent. For example, you may enjoy seeing a villain die a horrible death, but not because you believe in a literal sense that people like that villain would deserve a terrible fate, but rather because the violence is in some sense a representation of the struggle against more abstract ideas, or something. I suspect that only a very small minority actually engages in stories in this manner. But I am willing to accept that there might be some special esoteric ways to enjoy violent media. I am actually quite open-minded. Open-mindedness, however, is not enough to get me to truly believe that the enjoyment of violent media actually truly, typically, in most circumstances, indeed, lies outside of the violence itself. No, I am unable not to think that many people are literally attracted to the literal violence that we find depicted. I think the orc baby that was featured in Rings of Power, that many perceive as truly scandalous, actually sheds light on this issue. Orcs are an example of a creature in media that is a human-adjacent scum. Many fantasy stories feature orcs or goblins or some creature that would seem to be biologically related. Zombies and demons can also be examples of human-adjacent scum. Lots of villainous alien species also function as human-adjacent scum, though quite often to a slightly lesser degree. You see human-adjacent scum all over the place. It seems very strongly to me that human-adjacent scum in media functions as a means to render violence morally inconsequential. Zombies, I think, are most effective. Zombies are without consciousness, presumably, so there is no true harm done when, for example, in a video game, you, as the player, kill them. I think that many Tolkien enjoyers strongly prefer the orcs to function in a way similar to the zombie. Creatures that, though they may speak and have names, simply are not fully conscious in a way that humans are conscious, meaning that killing them has little moral bearing. The orc baby then poses a strong problem to this conceptualization. Now, I must say that human-adjacent scum as a trope in fiction is not wrong. It is still better, I think, to enjoy violence done to human-adjacent scum, as opposed to actual human beings, which is also something that happens a lot in media. There is something very positive about this trope. It is good that apparently there is enough discomfort with violence that such a trope has ended up becoming popular. But, at the same time, violence in real life also involves the dehumanization of the victim. Art imitates life. I don't actively think it's the other way around. I don't believe that it is typically true that human-adjacent scum in media serves to prepare people for a similar mental exercise of dehumanizing the victims of what our elites may decide to be a just war. I do consider the possibility. I do believe the elites to be wily. Either way, I don't believe for 1 second that the people who are outraged by the orc baby actually care as much about Tolkien's lore. If there even were any deep lore regarding how orcs reproduce and how their infants are raised, surely few people would know, much less care about such details. Much graver changes to the Tolkien world were already made by Peter Jackson without offending anyone even remotely as much. The orc baby exposes the fact that quite a lot of people like to conceptualize orcs in a way that removes all moral bearing and all the seriousness of the violence that is done to them. Tough shit, however. In real life, the death of your enemies is tragic. Being on the wrong side of history, even if you suppose for convenience that it was willful, does not strip you of your human dignity. It is only fitting that the death of fictitious foes is therefore also depicted as deeply tragic, so that we may be prevented from celebrating tragedy. Art, and this is of course my own fucking opinion, feel free to have a more boring take. Art is often better when it isn't as pretty. Good art teaches us to see, not to look away.